Awesome. Okay, so today we're talking about a fun topic, and that's the subject of cheat codes and life hacks. So, personally, I've gone through a journey with regards to cheat codes and life hacks where when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, let me hack everything. Let me optimize everything. Let me try and find the shortest route to my objective." But as I've become older, I've kind of, I would say, balanced my attitude towards the subject. What's your thoughts on the subject? Like, what's your experience, and what do you
Yeah,
think are for you the pros and cons of trying to find cheat codes and life hacks?
yeah. So, I mean, maybe I should start off by defining what they mean to me, right? So, I'll say cheat code for me is just like bypassing the traditional way to do something to get the same outcome,
Hmm.
which has its consequences as well, but also does has its benefits. And then life hacks for me is just a better way of doing something. So, increasing your overall efficiency when doing life tasks, you
Mm,
know?
mm,
So, yeah, for me, I think, I'm going to get straight to the point here. Balance is extremely important when it comes to these because I think you need to know when to use them, right? And I think as you get older, you start to understand that sometimes the longer route is the best route,
yeah,
depending on the task,
yeah.
because the longer route does come with lessons, it comes with experience, etc., etc. But on the contrary, the longer route all the time is also inefficient.
Mm,
So I'm going to use like a cheat code as an example, right? I think when you're young, cheat codes always are the best or most attractive looking route,
mm,
right? Because it gets you the desired outcome. But sometimes when you get the desired outcome without necessarily working for it, um, the satisfaction for it is not as high as you thought it would be. So what you end up doing is looking for another cheat code to get to a higher desired outcome.
mm,
And I think the consequence of doing that too much is that you become a creature of looking for shortcuts, and doing it too much can actually get to a point where you are questioning yourself, either from a moral or ethical perspective.
mm,
So yeah, for me, that's cheat codes, you
mm,
know. And you have to know when to use a cheat code, right? Like I said, cheat codes are good, but you have to know when you should take the long road because the long road comes with its lessons. The traditional way has its benefits too. And then in terms of life hacks, I would say for me, life hacks, I look at it a bit more informally. It's like, how can I do things better? How can I make better use of my time? And I think with regards to life hacks, there are less negative consequences, right? So I'll give you an example. For me, a life hack would be, if I'm doing the laundry, I could do the dishes at the same time
mm.
rather than do the laundry and then do the dishes.
Sure.
Because the washer is underneath sink and the sink is above the washer. So it just makes sense to do them at the same time because the washing is an automatic process while the washing of my dishes is something I do with my hands. So yeah, that's just my take on it. I think it depends on task, it depends on where you are in your life, it depends on what you want to derive from the experience,
Mm,
and it also depends on how much you want to appreciate in the final outcome. Because I think everything has got to do with what you feel in the end.
mm,
And if what you feel in the end is not enough, you're going back to the beginning to
hmm.
look for more.
Absolutely. I think that's a
And
great,
you'll,
that's a great answer. Yeah, look, I think, you know, to add to what you were saying, it's about having that awareness that there are some things that you should optimize and some things that you should just do. And I think of a great example is like I think about at school where kids that try and cheat on tests, they become very, very creative in the ways that they cheat. And
yeah,
the thing is that I find really funny is like, if you just applied the same effort and ingenuity to your studies, you would get the marks without the risk, which is
that makes sense.
so it's like
100.
you put the same effort in. You just you were so obsessed with avoiding the work that you created work for yourself, you know? So like that's a cautionary tale about trying to cheat your way through life. Then the second
Yeah.
thing is like the problem is you're always looking for the path of least resistance, right? Which is a dangerous mindset to have because it's difficult to turn that switch off, you know? So you will take this attitude of trying to find the path of least resistance in a work task, and then you might try and apply it to an ethical matter where it's like, okay, well, instead of dealing with the consequences of a mistake, I'm just going to lie about it. Because that's technically, it's a cheat code, to hack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Avoid the responsibility. No problem. No one got hurt, so why should I be truthful? And that in an isolated incident, sure, it kind of makes sense. But
Mm.
the problem is you never really get away with it. So,
Sure. For sure.
and then also like, here's the cool thing that you said, which I agree with, is the development. So when you find a cheat code to do the thing, you don't learn how to do the thing without the cheat code, right? So the development from start to finish, which was actually the point of the exercise, you've now missed out on.
Yeah.
So the only thing you're really getting good at is cheat codes, which is cool. That's a skill to itself, but like you're missing a lot of the other development. So I'll give you a good example. When I was in high school, I had the great fortune of my dad being a chartered accountant. So come exams time, when it was time to study for accounting, my dad was my cheat code because I'd sit down with him for like 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, and he would give me a master class in accounting. So I really understood stuff. But
Yeah.
what I actually needed was to get the the harsh lesson of a bad result to force me to be like, okay, I need to actually pay attention in class or do my own study because dad's not always going to be there to give me a master class in accounting. And what about all my other subjects?
Sure.
Because
For
if you're
sure.
not studying for one thing, you're probably not studying for something else.
100%.
More of like a
100%.
pervasive character traits than an isolated a shortcoming.
And I like how you said that, right? I mean, I'm going to ask you a question which has an obvious answer, but what makes you appreciate achieving something?
The effort that you put into it, the hard work. Yeah.
100%. And that's one of the consequences of the cheat code is that you lose touch with how much work it takes to achieve that. And
Mm.
like I said, once you don't appreciate it for its true value, you then go look for another cheat code that takes you to the second stage and the third stage and the fourth stage. And as you achieve all these things, you don't develop your character, you
Yep.
develop a sense of arrogance, you develop
Imposter syndrome.
even the ability to look down on others who can't do it, or look down on others who can't figure out the cheat code.
Yeah.
And through that, you separate yourself because the cheat code is not something that everyone finds, right? You separate yourself from the hard workers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying working hard is the solution to life, but understanding hard work brings satisfaction in life because
Sure.
through hard work, you fail a lot, you
Yeah.
learn more about yourself,
You build that
etc.
resiliency.
100%, 100%. And also, it makes you a better failure, right? Because the higher you go, the less the cheat codes work.
Absolutely. You get found out. That's the
Yeah, because the people at the top they can smell through it. They're probably just as smart. There's people at the top who got there without using the cheat code and they can look through you like a laser beam, right? And it's when you meet those people that your flawed character and your underdevelopment will then take you right back to the bottom. So yeah, the fastest way to the top isn't always the most sustainable,
yeah.
because yeah, you lose out on the development that you need to stay there.
I have a very funny example of this. So like when I was at school, I'm gonna shout out Jerry because you know him and most people do. But
Yeah,
Jerry and I used to play games together. And my favorite game at school was Skyrim, right? Now, Skyrim is a crazy game where you can play for like 200 hours, 300 hours. and it's you level up your character. And every time I used to go to Jerry's house, his character would be like 40 levels ahead of me. And I'd be like, how the hell did you do that? I mean, I've been
For
grinding
sure.
the whole time and you are 10 times ahead of me. And it turned out he had all of these cheat codes that I didn't know about. And at the time, I was like, oh, dang, like that's so cool. I wish I had them. But now I think back to it and I'm like, you kind of miss the point of playing the game because the point of the game is that it's challenging and you struggle and you do all of these things and you're exploring and it's about the process. When you unlock the thing, the game becomes boring because there's now nothing more to do.
100%.
So it's like, okay, you played yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I mean, I think that's a perfect illustration from what I was trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Appreciation comes from hard work. Appreciation comes from long hours. Appreciation comes from toiling for the results, you
Mm.
know? And, you know, like they say, like if you get something easy, you just don't understand the true value of it, you
That's
know?
absolutely true.
And that's why I think it's in every man's task to really, when you do receive or when you're in a position where you're privileged to get something you didn't work for, or you're privileged enough to get something that the average person does not, through reading or associating yourself with others who don't, go and understand the value of that. You know, because once you understand the value of that, you become just as powerful as someone who's worked for it.
Here's a great speech. I actually have it ironically right here. Oh, here it is. And I didn't prepare this, by the way. This is just the magic of life. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite historical figures is Theodore Roosevelt. He's a big inspiration to me. And um, a side note, like the thing about him that I love the most is he has this famous speech called The Man in the Arena, which, if you haven't, to the audience, if you haven't read it, go and check it out. LeBron James had this in his, I think he had it in his locker when he used to watch it like before every game. But anyways, in this other speech that Teddy did, we're on a first name basis, by the way, Teddy. Um,
Yeah, well,
it's called The Strenuous Life, right? And he speaks on why it's important to embrace challenge and effort in life. And he actually has a part in the speech. I'm not going to quote it now, but he talks about if you have wealth, say you've earned wealth or you are born into wealth. If you don't forge your character and make yourself worthy of it, you will lose that wealth. And I believe that with the cheat code subject, it's like the achievements that you get through cheat codes and hacks, because you yourself are not worthy of it, it won't stay and you will get found out. And you will always carry this feeling of inadequacy and that you're not worthy, and that because you're not worthy, you haven't earned it. You know, so I mean, that's what imposter syndrome is. If you feel like an imposter, you probably are. You probably are. And that's okay. Like, it's not terrible, but now do something with that information. Ask yourself, why do I feel like an imposter? Well, shit, maybe I haven't earned this position. Okay, well, now work your damn ass off so that you can earn it.
for sure.
You know, it's the same with the wealth. It's like if you were born into privilege, well, it's not your fault, but now what are you going to do about it?
For sure.
You know?
And I like how you mentioned the imposter syndrome thing, right? Like, I find it very interesting that you brought up the topic because I mean, I've been reading a lot about it, not because of myself, but because of like the kids that I mentor in the orphanages and like brilliant, intelligent, top students have imposter syndrome. So they feel not worthy of stuff, right?
Mm.
And I like how you mentioned there that like when you feel not worthy of something, you need to unpack why.
Yeah.
And if you're on the one spectrum where you really are not, then what do you do to improve yourself? But if you're on the other spectrum where you actually are worthy, right, but not feeling worthy, what do you then need to do within yourself to look deeper, to then
Sure.
make sure that you can appreciate it
Yes.
and like embody your your truth of the
Mhm.
fact that you are worthy, you know? So it's just interesting. I like the unpacking part of it. Like if you're feeling imposter, ask yourself why. Because
Yeah.
there's only two answers.
Yeah. Either
I
you are
am
or you aren't.
or I'm not worthy.
But the cool thing, well, maybe it's not so cool, but I think it's cool. Every day the rent must be paid. So it doesn't matter what you did yesterday. You must do it again today, you know?
For sure. For
So
sure.
like one of the things that I was thinking about this subject before the call was, the problem with the cheat code thing is that it treats life like it's an isolated outcome. It's all about getting to that goal. But the problem is once you get there, life is going on and you must now play again. The game must be played again. So if your whole life is just about racing towards an outcome as quickly as possible and as easily as possible, it's like, well, you're just going to race your life away, you know,
Yeah.
because life is bigger than that. And
100%.
it's it's an interconnected thing. So, and the cool thing about goals is like one of the reasons why you should do, not to say take the long road, but do the real work to get the outcome is because the work you do for this outcome serves you for the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. It's not
For
a
sure.
habit. It's like muscle, the muscle that you've built, you have, and now you get to use that for other stuff.
For sure.
And the muscle is actually a great subject because there's a massive cheat code in the realm of building muscle called steroids. Everyone knows about it. It's very widely used. A lot of people, most of the people you see on screen that have impressive bodies use steroids. But the problem is they didn't put the work in to actually build those muscles. So they lose it as soon as they stop using the juice.
Yeah.
And often they're actually in a worse position afterwards than they would have been if they hadn't have used it. And that's also the problem with cheat codes is that they come with a price.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And think of it like this, and I love how you mentioned that, right? Not to deviate you of that. Cramming is the same thing as steroids.
Yes, it is
Like
cramming.
you can cram your way like through high school. You can cram your way
100%.
through high school. It's phenomenal, amazing A student. And then you get to university where maybe you choose a course that requires critical thinking
Yeah.
and real world analysis,
Yeah.
whereby cramming doesn't work anymore and the perfect answer isn't the right answer.
Absolutely.
And then you find someone completely tumbling and losing that ability to embody what they embodied
Happens
when
a
they were
lot.
cramped.
Happens a lot. And you realize that you actually have to know stuff. The thing about cramming, you don't know it, you just remember it.
Yeah.
You don't understand it. There's no understanding there. And you realize
Yeah.
the test of life is a test of understanding.
Mm.
Simple as that. If you don't, like in the real world, when you're working, if you don't understand shit, you get found out very quickly because
Yeah, for
you
sure.
can't adapt. Real life is not a textbook test. Real life is an application test.
For sure. 100%. You said that so well. And I mean, this just reminds me, one of my favorite quotes by Bob Marley he always says, like, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, right?
Mm,
That can be defined in like so many different ways. But for me, one of the worst forms of mental slavery is remembering something and giving the perfect answer
mm,
without understanding what the answer means. And for me, the best answer or the most empowering answer, not only to yourself, but to your audience, is an answer that you can unpack beyond the surface level. Because then you're able to change people's minds, right? Then you're able to give people multiple perspectives of the answer. So I think going beyond the surface level is what you need in real life because the surface level works in high school, it works on tests, it works on paper because that's just right or wrong. When you get into the real world, you could have an answer that says wrong,
mm,
and this is why I think it's wrong.
mhm.
And the answer becomes right. Sometimes proving something wrong becomes the right thing to do, becomes a better thing to do. You can't do that in some spheres of life, such as high school, university, or whatever, right? So I think that's the beautiful thing of understanding and like not using cheat codes. And I mean, how many times have experiments and theoretical uh, formats and structures that have been with us for years been proven wrong,
Yeah.
but then accepted as right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because someone has gone beyond the surface level understanding of it, taken a step further to say that, "Yeah, I agree, but I disagree, and this is why I disagree. And because I disagree, here's the facts." And now it becomes the new
Hmm.
right answer.
That's a great way of putting it. It's a great way of putting it. I have an example that I wouldn't mind that I would like to share. Um, I've been reading this really cool book on mythology. I love the subject of mythology. I find it fascinating. And the myth that I wanted to talk about was from Roman mythology, and it was about the story of Narcissus, who was a son of son of Aphrodite. And when he was in the myth, he was the most beautiful person in the world, right? And when he was born, Aphrodite went to the fates and asked them, what is the fate of Narcissus? Will he be a great hero? Will he survive? And they said to her, as long as he doesn't discover who he is, he will be great. And what they meant by that is as long as he doesn't see how he looks because of his beauty. So in the myth, he grows up as a man, and I think he reaches the age of 17 or 18, and he's a good-hearted person. He's fine. But everybody loves him because of his beauty. And the one day he was standing at a lake and he saw his reflection in the water, and he was so captivated by his own reflection that he went into the water and he drowned because he was in love with himself. And this myth is basically the origin of the phrase narcissist, right? And the punchline is coming. But so this story, I read this myth and I was like, this is such a great lesson for us all in the sense of don't be so egocentric. Don't be so focused on yourself and how you look and how the world perceives you, right? Now, the cheat code is to remember the myth and to be like, this is cool. Like, look at the myth. I know this, blah, blah, blah. But the real life test is, are you applying this lesson? Are you living it? And so I was using this as like a reminder for myself to not be so egocentric and so focused on myself and how much I look at my appearance and everything. Because the truth is nowadays, like society is very narcissistic, very
Yeah,
egocentric.
that's how it's designed, right? You're designed to have your own identity.
Yes,
And for your identity to be realized, you need to be as loud about it as possible.
yes. And we're surrounded by mirrors,
For
whether
sure.
literal or figurative, we're surrounded by mirrors. I mean, Instagram is
100%.
like a mirror the whole time. So I guess the point that I wanted to make that serves this subject in a way is don't remember stuff just to use it in conversation. Actually live it and apply it, you know,
100%.
uh,
Oh, said.
I would say.
And I really like the concept that you use there of like he saw how beautiful it was, he jumped and he fell into the water and drowned.
Mm,
Right. So sometimes your fate can be how amazing you are. Realizing how amazing you are can be your fate, right? And that's why the subject of humility, like I always disagree with the definition of it because it always makes it like humility is when you degrade yourself. No, right?
sure,
Because I mean the definition of humility is like your degradation of self-importance.
sure.
No, I don't think if for someone who practices humility regularly, I don't think it's the degrading of your self-importance. I think you still feel like you're important, but it is your ability to relate to everyone who hasn't done what you've done
Mm,
and your ability to lift somebody who is way below you if you can,
yeah.
either through influence, through actions, or through inspiration.
Mm,
That is humility. you
Mm.
know. And I think what narcissism does is that it makes you feel like you know everything because you've done everything. And like I said earlier on, the 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 start the start is not the same for everyone, right? Sometimes being born into a wealthy family is already a cheat code,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
which you may not acknowledge, right?
To yourself.
But you challenge, yeah, exactly, exactly. Sometimes just generally having more money makes you more handsome.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt, right?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And like it's being able to acknowledge those type of things
Yeah,
that allow for you to go beyond the cheat code and truly understand the value, like I had mentioned before.
100%.
So the thing about the cheat code, it gets you to the destination, it gets you to the result, it gets you to the outcome, but it doesn't give you the understanding of the
Actual process and everything that goes into.
exactly.
Yeah,
And what the cheat code, the person who has a cheat code needs to do to enlighten themselves is to understand it and maybe even associate with someone who doesn't. And through helping someone who doesn't have it, get the benefit of
sure.
the long, you
Yeah,
know? So so complex and like obviously it's very it depends on the task, right?
yeah,
Because some
it's
tasks
nuanced.
need to be continuously using cheat codes, right?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
And
But
it's I think there's like you say, it's something that's nuanced. It's a nuanced subject. Like
for
there's
sure.
not a right answer for every situation. You want to be effective and efficient, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like
And I like that, right?
yeah, yeah,
You want
go.
to be effective, you want to be effective and efficient, but not at the expense of your development.
That's a great way of completing that sentence. That's a great way of completing that sentence. Be effective and efficient, but not at the compromise of your development. That's a great way of
100%. 100%.
um
When problems come into that model, you will never be able to figure out why.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, the one thing I wanted to add on the subject of humility, which I thought was relevant, is I also think humility is a shift away from yourself. It's not using the world around you as a mirror to yourself, where you be like, either this person is better than me or this person is worse than me. Or, you know, like a narcissist, right, judges themselves off of their friends. They
Yeah.
don't look at their friends for their friends. They'd be like, I'm so great because this is my friend. And it's the same with a romantic interest. It's not, I love this person. It's, I love what I feel about myself because I'm with this person, you know? And so, again, everything's about them. Whereas humility, it's like you're there and you're not thinking about yourself in relation to everything around you. You're just there,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I've
well
just,
said.
I was at the gym today and, you know, since I went to church on Sunday, I've just been binging the same Christian music playlist. And the reason why I like it is just it puts me in such a good headspace. You know, it's like it really is focused on humility. And I was at the gym today and I was just laughing to myself because I really felt so comfortable. I was not looking at anybody else as a subject of comparison, you know. I was really just doing my thing and having a good time. And I just thought like you know, a lot of people when they go to the gym, they're so self-conscious. They're thinking so much like, oh, you know, is this person thinking about my lift? What does my outfit look like? Like, there's a pretty girl over there. Is she gonna think I look jacked or not? Like, there's so
Yeah.
in their heads, you know? And it's so nice to be able to just go and just be present and not worry about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 And I love that, right? And I mean, I'll give you a challenge. Maybe you've tried it before, right? And I think this ties up to why like ultra rich don't really wear like branded clothing and stuff, right? I mean, firstly, they don't want to be identified.
Sure.
You, you can say that,
And they don't care.
but and they don't care 100%. And they also understand that the t-shirt is a t-shirt because these guys are in business, right? One thing that I've really, really learned, if you want to understand people
Yeah.
properly, be humble. Be
Yes.
humble in your dress code, be humble in your approach, put yourself below someone because it is in those instances where people reveal themselves.
Mm.
I'll give you a very good example. I mean, I have quite a small frame as an example, as a guy, right? And uh, sometimes I just prefer to dress down because I just want to study my environment. I won't wear my fancy watch. I won't wear a dress. I'll just wear a t-shirt and some pants and some flops, and
Mhm.
I'll go engage and have a meeting with someone. This is not my personal business. And in that meeting, I will be able to know everything about that person because 99.9999999% of the time, the person has judged me based on what they're seeing, not
Say.
what I'm from my mouth.
Mm.
And and my ability to, I'm gonna say, like, be comfortable with that, but it has allowed me to increase my accuracy in my decision making with who I want to work with, right? Because it is those people who are able to look beyond the surface and focus on what I'm saying, the content, the intelligence, rather than what's around,
100%.
right? And I think that's what billionaires and millionaires and all these guys are really good at doing.
Yeah.
They're able to go beyond the surface level stuff and say, cool, let's focus on what we're here to focus on. Forget about all external stuff. Forget about the narcissism. Let's have a conversation
Mhm.
and let's focus on the content. Let's focus on the talent. Let's focus on what I can do for you and what you can do for me. I'm not driving a Ferrari. I'm not wearing a Rolex. But what I'm saying, I can back. So for some people, what you're saying has to be backed by,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, those are not the people that you want to work with.
Bro, this is gold, what you're saying right now. It makes me think of Elon and how his approach to talent recruitment, where he has this mentality of when he speaks to you in an interview, he asks you, what's the hardest problem you've solved? And tell me how you solved it. He doesn't ask you, where did you study? What's your family? What's your background? All of this nonsense. No, it's just, what can you do? Like, what can you do? And
Yeah,
real oaks,
yeah,
serious oaks in life who actually get shit done have that approach as well. It's like,
sure,
I don't care what you say, show me what you can do. And
100%.
like, it's such a clever way of looking at things, bro. Even with friendship, relationships, everything. Like, if you can rise above the visual appearances and see through to the substance, it's hard, though. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, you see a oak in a sharp suit, you immediately hold him in a higher regard.
yeah, 100%.
It's the psychology of it.
And what he says doesn't even matter anymore, right? That because he's wearing a Rolex and a shrub suit and arrives in a Range Rover, this is the guy I want to work with.
The shit.
His fate. That very same analysis could be your fate, you
Absolutely.
know? So yeah, I just find it very interesting. It is tricky though, but I think the ability to, like, and the people who do that best, right? And not to say that someone who dresses well and dresses flashy is looking for that.
Sure.
And
It's
but I
guaranteed.
think, yeah, but I do think after an appreciation of receiving it and understanding that, like, certain things bring you credibility, when you do get to a period where you want to enjoy them, you're still able to enjoy them without letting those things cloud your judgment.
Yeah.
And like here, I'll use like investors, great investors who go invest in backroom startups. I can tell you now, the investor rocked up there with his Ferrari and all these type of things, and the guys arrived with their t-shirts and $0 bank accounts and etc.
Flops.
Exactly.
Long hair.
Hungry,
No.
haven't showered with no haircut.
Literally.
So
I mean, Sam, I don't like using this example because Sam Bankman-Fried was a scallon, but he got Sequoia Capital, the best startup venture capitalist firm in Silicon Valley. We're talking Peter Thiel, the flippin' all-stars to invest in his thing, right? And he rocked up to the meeting in board shorts, flip-flops, fuzzy hair,
yeah,
the laptop, and he got them to contribute and to commit like millions, hundreds of millions, you know? So
For sure. For
they might
sure.
have missed the boat on that one, but the point
Yeah.
is that's it.
Yeah. And in a nutshell, like I'll say in one sentence, right? But like to appreciate humility, you have to first be humble. You have to know what it feels like to be humble and what it feels like to be perceived with the other side of being humble.
Mm,
People underlook you before they know who you are, before they know what car you drive, before
mm,
if you can take those punches a little bit, you're then able to appreciate someone who's truly humble. And a lot of the times in my life, that what I've discovered is that the most humble people have also been the most successful people that I've met. I've only understood them better and what they've achieved in life after I've unpacked and gotten to know them, right? And that's why they say like only 10% of the ultra rich are known, the other 90% are unknown.
it's true. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I also think, I think to be able to be the person who gets it right, you gotta be willing to be misunderstood by the majority of people.
100%.
There's a humility that's required with that, like a detachment from what a narcissist craves, which is external validation all the time, right?
For sure, for sure,
So
for
a
sure.
narcissist will really struggle to, like 90% of the people that are successful are probably not narcissists, because
Yeah,
success requires an external focused drive where you're adding value to others. And if you're a narcissist, you don't really care about adding value to others, you just care about yourself. So
for sure, for sure, for sure. So well said, bro. So yeah, I think that's my airtime done for the day.
yes, yeah, I think we can
It's
also
an amazing, 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 amazing topic to discuss. But
Mhm.
yeah, maybe humility should be unpacked further, and maybe even these two, right? We should just isolate it to a certain sphere of life and then decide, the benefits and drawbacks of cheat codes and life hacks in a specific element of life. But I love this. I love this.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, we'll speak to you next time. Until then.